Hello, everyone, and welcome back to One Soccer. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming, and I am joined by my colleague, Alex Gangue-Ruzic. And today is Canadians Abroad, but a little bit different. We are going to start off by taking a look at some of the main storylines leading into this window for the Canadian men's national team, what is all at stake this window, what it could lead to qualifying for, and of course, we are going to take a look at the NWSL season because it is starting soon, and we are very excited for that. But the first storyline we are going to talk about today, Alex, is going to be Cyle Larin and his incredible goal-scoring form right now in La Liga and how that potentially could affect the way that he plays with Jonathan David and maybe what system John Herdman goes with.
Absolutely, and I think it's something that's very interesting to consider because it felt like heading into the World Cup, Cyle Larin had started to lose his spot a little. It's tough to say of someone who scored so many goals for Canada during qualifying and obviously became the all-time leading scorer, but just wasn't getting any minutes at Club Brugge, and you could tell it was affecting him. He was a bit, off in that September window and at the World Cup as well. He had some flashes, but didn't look like himself. He started to wonder, maybe is it a time where Jonathan David really takes control of that striker position and becomes the number one option for Canada? But Larin since then has joined a tier one league and has been scoring for fun in that tier one league. And John Herdman's going to be loving what he's seen from Cyle Larin at Real Valladolid. And it opens up questions. Do you play Larin together with David? And I think the answer is yes. It's just the question is how.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a 3-5-2, 4-4-2, but John Herdman definitely likes his two strikers playing together. And Alex, I just want to know, is there ever been a time going into a window like this where Cyle Larin and Jonathan David have been in this type of form? We've seen David obviously have some drops in consistency. He'll be very hot, very cool. He's had a very consistent season so far right now. And Cyle Larin obviously coming from a very successful Besiktas season to kind of a slower one to the start of Bruges and now at La Liga. Right now, if you're a Canadian fan, you have to imagine that these two strikers are in tip-top form.
Yeah, certainly it's been a while since we've seen both strikers in form like this. I think the most recent I can remember them at least being in this sort of form was all the way back in 2021 when Cyle Larin was scoring for fun with Besiktas in their title-winning season. Jonathan David was wrapping up a title season of his own over at Lille, and they were just both in red-hot form, and they linked up in the June window. Jonathan David ended up getting a hat-trick against Suriname. Cyle Larin scored a boatload of goals, including 2 goals across 2 legs against Haiti, both huge goals for Canada. So maybe we can see a bit of that. Who knows if it'll be a 4-4-2? Who knows if it would be a 3-5-2? Maybe we see a 4-3-3 with David playing on the wing. We've seen that before, but I think you have to get both of them on the field together.
All right, on to our next storyline. We are going to look at the midfield, and this is a very intriguing one because, we have an Atiba Hutchinson coming in. We don't know exactly how fit he's going to be, how much he's going to play. We have Ismael Kone, of course, coming in here, finding his form at Watford, playing very well in the championship, and Stephen Eustáquio. So it's going to be very curious for me to see who maybe plays in that double pivot, how they're going to do it, if it's a 2-man midfield, 3-man midfield. Well, one thing is for sure, Alex recently sat down and talked with Kone, and he's definitely motivated. Right, Alex?
100%. I think we're going to get a very good version of Ismael Kone. I think some important factors to remember. We have to remember he's still super young. He's just 20. He's going to be 24 by the time that home World Cup rolls around, which he's going to be motivated to play in. He hasn't started a game yet for the Canadian men's national team, removing, of course, that out of window camp against Bahrain. He hasn't started an official game. If you look at the World Cup, we thought he'd start. He was playing so well, but didn't get that start either in either of the other windows. So Ismael Kone is going to be hungry to really stamp himself out as a Canadian national team regular because it hasn't happened yet. We've seen him develop at Watford and say, oh, his time has come. Well, technically it hasn't arrived yet, and I think this window will be the start of that 100% if the World Cup was just a taste of what he can offer. And I think that's huge for Canada because they need more bodies in midfield. They need more youth. They need more athleticism. They need more technical ability, and Kone ticks all of those 3 boxes. You combine with what Stephen Eustáquio can bring, all of a sudden someone like Atiba Hutchinson, his life is made a lot easier if he has Eustáquio and Kone doing a lot of the dirty work in front of him, or you look at some of the other options. So 100% very excited to see what Kone can bring to this midfield and how he fits in with some of the pieces around.
Yeah, and I really want to see how he's going to be able to kind of adapt and play his game alongside Eustáquio in that 2-man system, because if it's a system that we're expecting them to go with, like a 4-4-2, the midfield is the big issue. Eustáquio will definitely have to bring on some defensive abilities as well as Kone, and hopefully they can mesh and create some type of solid midfield going forward. On to our next big storyline now, and that is new faces coming to this camp, Alex. There's a few of them. Which one kind of sticks out to you for this window so far?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's been a while since we've had this many new faces. I mean, for those maybe who aren't keeping track at home, you've got Victor Laturi earning his first call up, the former Cavalry midfielder currently at Ross County. You've got Tom McGill, Brighton and Albion's third goalkeeper, so obviously that's a big deal. You add in Kyle Hebert of St. Louis City, who we recently talked to and has been lighting up MLS, and then feels like a new face. He isn't, because he's been in a camp before. We also got Dominic Zator, another former Cavalry midfielder, and York, as Josh Shirt proudly shows, playing currently in Korona Kielce in Poland. Very intriguing faces because they all bring positions of need for Canada. You got, a central defensive midfielder, a number 6, which Canada is lacking depth at that position. You got a couple center backs, as well as you got a fullback / center back if you look at Zator, and then you got some goalkeeper depth and potentially high end goalkeeper depth given the potential of McGill. So excited to see who will feature. I think certainly Hebert and Zator have the best shouts given Canada's needs at center back, but don't sleep on Laturi as a potential 6 option given Canada's depth in midfield.
Yeah, Hebert's story has been absolutely incredible. I was so stoked. I was pretty bummed out to see him not get the call up, but then I think he rightfully deserved it. He's going to be with the squad. Very excited for him. I want to say, Alex, for that first game, if we're going to see one of these faces for a surprise start against Curaçao, I don't know if it's going to be Hebert just based on the way that the Zator plays, because Zator, as we know, he plays a center back, he plays a right back. And if Canada do play in a back 3 against Curaçao, wouldn't you have to imagine, since Johnson is out with suspension, that Zator could easily slide in that outside right center back with like Victoria in the middle and then maybe like a Cornelius or Kennedy on the left? Or do you think that on the flip side of that, you could maybe see Laturi go into the midfield with like a Eustachio or Kone? Which one do you think is a little bit more likely and why?
I think that 100% has to be Zator, just because as much as I think it would be nice to see a Laturi start, it's something where it is a bit soon. It is his first camp. This is more of seeing, is he at the level? How does he cope playing against the likes of Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David? Ditto for a guy like Kyle Hebert. This is his, first camp in. Whereas Dominic Zator, he's been in the camp before. He has that familiarity. He's a little older than the both as well, so he's kind of got that experience. And the most important thing is he brings a like-for-like replacement for someone in Johnston that's suspended. So you tick off multiple boxes there. So I think Zator 100% has a shout to potentially start that game, and that's exciting because as we've seen with Cavalry, York, even now in Korona Kielce, where he's been playing this right back, center back hybrid role, he can fill all of those roles. He's good in the air. He's good with the ball at his feet. And I think those attributes would lend well into Canada's system.
Yeah, I thought the number one reason that he probably got brought, not that he hasn't earned it on form, is the fact that Johnson has that suspension. So it just gives Herdman options if they do want to play that system. And the excellent thing with all 3 of these faces, besides McGill, because he's just not really featuring right now for Brighton, they're all in great form. Hebert in St. Louis is a story absolutely worth keeping an eye on. Zator has helped his side climb out of the relegation zone. He's playing very, very well there. And Laturi's finding a little bit more production towards that midfield right now. I mean, he's scoring goals, getting assists, playing very well, playing week in, week out. So this is a really good addition for all 3 faces. But I think a lot of intrigued Canadians might want to know, is there any chance we'll see Tom McGill? Do you think there's any chance whatsoever that we could see him? Or do you think that he's basically here just maybe kind of get his feet wet, see that this is potentially a career path he wants to go down with the national team of Canada?
I think that's absolutely the main plan, but look, we'll see how he enjoys it. Sometimes some players come into these environments and by the end of the camp, maybe if you're up 4-0 against Honduras, you've booked everything you need to book, in terms of qualifying for stuff, maybe you throw in Tom McGill for 5 minutes, of course, to cap tie because these are official games and to commit him into the fold. So I think just the main goal will be to have him around. And then you always, if he really loves it that much and he's expressed his joy in wanting to represent Canada, you go for it.
For our next storyline, we are focusing on Alphonso Davies, who may be in the best form of his life right now. He's playing as a left wing back for Bayern in that back 3 system. And is it time to maybe see him play as a wing back for Canada? We've seen him play as a left mid, a winger, a striker, a cam, but I truly believe his best position is the left wing back. So Alex, if we do see him go to this system, what could that potentially mean for the back 3 for Canada going forward?
Yeah, 100%. I think first of all, you have to consider it, given that Alphonso Davies, look, he's a good player. He can play anywhere on the field, and I think that's what we've seen from John Herdman. But what's he best at? He's best at attacking and defending. He's got a bit of both in his locker. We've seen it at Bayern. Where does that position him in his best spot? That's at wingback, and I think it's no coincidence his best game at the World Cup was at a wingback position against Belgium. So I think it would make a lot of sense for Canada. And I think it's something they have to consider, because at this level, you have to get the best out of your best players. And of course, we know that's what Davies is for Canada. And I think it's something where if you look at the back, three, if you do that, it's going to be some tweaks. Maybe you end up having to sacrifice one of Adekugbe or Johnston, for example, or you have to play one of them at more of a center back role. Of course, we've seen Johnston play that role more often. We've also seen Adekugbe play it before, so it's not out of the realm of possibility, given his passing and his aerial prowess. And that opens up spots for some interesting options at center back. We mentioned Zator earlier. Derek Cornelius is someone who would do well in a back three. Kyle Hebert could slide in. Of course, Steven Vittoria likely going to anchor the back three when fit. And I think that's exciting, given some of the options at center back and what it would mean for just allowing Davies to go forward like John Herdman wants him to, but also not lose some of those defensive skills that he's become known for at Bayern.
And just to build maybe that little back five for you guys to give you an idea, I mean, left wing back obviously would be Davies. At the outside left center back, you could have Cornelius, who I'd potentially like to see start both matches. Kennedy would probably be an option there as well. If Vittoria can play both, he probably will, but maybe you see a Hebert come in that central center back role. Alistair Johnson is suspended for the first game, so more than likely will start at that outside right center back role. We could see Zator, maybe even Hebert move over, but I would assume it would probably be Zator on the right, and then take your pick between Buchanan if he's fully fit, or if not, we could also see Richie Laryea feature there. All right, Alex, so this is a massive window for Canada. There are a lot of different scenarios that could see Canada qualify for different competitions, so why don't you try to lay it out for us?
For sure, it's a big window for Canada, and it's straightforward. I mean, first there's Nations League A, in which they're in with Honduras and Curaçao. Their mission is simple. You at least have to draw against Curaçao and beat Honduras to qualify as the top team. Canada currently 3 points off Honduras. Should you finish first, you then go to the Nations League semifinals in June, where you'd play the other group winners in League A, the 4 group winners, straight knockout, just trying to win a beautiful trophy, one that Canada could certainly use in its trophy case. Otherwise, what's at stake? If you finish top 2 in Nations League, you qualify for the Gold Cup, so winning your group would allow that. No relegation this year in Nations League. That has been removed due to the Copa America implication, so there is no worry about finishing third and having to go down in League B in the future, so that's huge. Otherwise, of course, there's Copa America. So there's a few options for Canada in Copa America. The main one is if they're currently top 4 of the CONCACAF rankings, which as long as they get those results outlined, they should hold, which would give them a bye through next year's Nations League to the quarterfinals, because next year there's going to be an addition of a quarterfinal for Nations League. So if Canada gets there, they would have to play a 2-legged series against one of the group winners from next year's Nations League A for a spot in Copa America. If they fail to hold that top 4 spot, they would go into Nations League A again like this, where they'd have to win their group to get into the quarterfinals. That would be the alternate route. And should they lose those quarterfinals, the 4 losers would go into a special tournament where they would play, a play-in tournament for the last 2 spots of Copa America. So there are a few options for Canada available.
To end off this episode of Canadians Abroad, we are going to take a look at the NWSL, which kicks off this Saturday. And here's some of the big storylines surrounding them. There are 15 Canadians on rosters this year, with 12 expected to feature regularly. And of course, the Houston Dash lead the way with 4 Canadians. OL has 2 as well. Those 2 players on OL, which Jordan Huitema and Quinn, won the Shield last year, which was very impressive. A couple other Canadians won the playoffs as well, and of course that is Christine Sinclair and Janine Becky. And there are some big opening matches for you guys to keep an eye on, as Kaylin Sheridan San Diego Wave take on Bianca St. George's Chicago Red Star. Houston is hosting Louisville. Portland is hosting Orlando. It will be an action-packed weekend. And Alex, just a generic question for you to end off. Which team or player you want to keep a very special eye on this season?
For sure. And I mean, just limiting me to one player feels wild because there's so many Canadians. But I think if I'm going to pick one, I'd say Gabby Carl and the Washington Spirit, just because Carl had such a good stint over in Sweden. And, now she's back in the NWSL. I think it's going to be interesting to see how she does in her first season in North America. She's so versatile, can play at left back and play at left center back. She's in a fight to try and make the World Cup squad. Her proving herself would go a long way. And then other than that, like keeping the likes of Kaylin Sheridan, who was pretty much the best goalkeeper last year, going to keep an eye on that. Going to keep an eye on Huitema and Quinn, because they were electric last year and really combined and had good chemistry. And then, of course, the Houston Dash contingent, a lots to like there with 4 Canadians in the mix. Sophie Schmidt, Alicia Chapman, Nichelle Prince, who hopefully can return from her injury in time for the World Cup, and the new face, Devon Kerr.
Yeah, I'm gonna give. I will pick just one because but I'm gonna go for Herdman. I think this could be a big season for her to find that consistent scoring form that we know that she has in her, and hopefully will obviously fall over to the national team as well. But that is all the time we have for on this kind of rapid fire edition of Canadians Abroad. I really hope you guys all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to tune in for next week's episode.